live. So I've never done this before, so I see at the top, you can see like how many people are in, and then you can see how many people have liked it so far. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I've never done it either. Not with somebody, only by myself. So I have my laptop over here. I'm just trying to see in case some comments or something pop up because I don't know how to see that on the phone. And I'll also just, so everybody knows, you can hear her now. I will try and stay on mute most of the time until it's time for me to speak because my daughter is very talkative and she likes to be in the conversation.
Okay, cool. Awesome. Okay, well, I guess should we just get started and we'll see if, I guess as people come in, they'll just come in when they come in. Do you want to start by just doing like a quick intro of how we know each other or something like that?
Yeah, sure. Let me just grab a sip of my coffee and show off my new favorite mug.
I love it.
This is Billy. So, and I also want to show everybody, look, Melissa and I's nails are similar. That's not planned.
It was a synchronicity.
Yeah, we're on the same vibe. So I met Melissa. She was a client of mine actually. And I just felt so strongly that she was so naturally psychic herself. I could sense her intuition. So I was like, you can be doing this too. You know what I mean? So, and then we just kind of became cool after that. Back then I was living in Maryland. She was in Virginia. So we were both in the DMV. Girl. So we kind of also bonded off of that. I'm in California now. But yeah, that's how we met.
Yeah. So literally, you guys, those of you that are joining in, welcome. So, but literally, I probably wouldn't even be doing what I'm doing with tarot if it wasn't for Erika, because she literally was the person who gave me the push to like put myself out there and try it out. You know, I was getting readings with her. And then literally, like she said, in this one reading, I think we were doing a reading on some stupid guy that I was dating or something like that. And I remember in that reading, Erika was like, you know, you're very intuitive. You could really work on strengthening your intuition just by pulling a card of the day every day. And I remember at the time thinking to myself, like, I can pull a card of the day. Like, I just didn't even realize that that was something that I could do. I had no conception of that at the time. So, you guys can really thank Erika because she literally like birthed Tarot by Melissa.
Oh.
Lula.
Yeah, she's can feel the excitement. Yes,
So
I'm
sweet.
thankful for that. And I also appreciate you because there have been other people I have encouraged and helped, and they don't always give me credit like you do. Not that I need credit, but you know what I mean. You acknowledge, how I helped, and I always appreciate that because in times where I feel low or struggling or like, why am I doing this? Nobody even appreciates it.
Mhm.
That always helps me to keep going because I'm like, well, Melissa appreciates it.
Of course.
Yes.
I'm really big on that. Like, I'm really big on giving people the credit that they deserve for the impact that they make. I think it just makes a huge difference to that person to really acknowledge and celebrate and recognize the role that they played, whatever the situation is. So I'm happy
Yes,
to do it.
for sure. Yes, Lula, she does do that. Yes.
Lula's a Gemini just like me, so we like to talk. So what I was thinking, maybe what I can do is I can just kind of read off the questions that people had asked us, and then if we get any other questions that come in through the comments and we have some time, we can answer more questions. So for any of you guys that are just joining in, Erika and I are just doing a little chatty Q&A video today, and some of you guys had already submitted some questions when I had posted about this on my community tab. So I thought that we would go, hi, Crystal. So I thought that we would just kind of go through each of the questions, have some conversation. And then if you guys have any other questions that you're curious to hear our insights or opinions on, go ahead and pop them into the chat. And if we have time at the end, we'll circle back to them.
Yes, I'm excited. What we got?
All right. So I think the first one's a pretty like nice, light icebreaker type of question, but somebody wanted to know what our birth chart placements were. So would you like to go first?
I actually, well, I don't really know all of mine. I like astrology, but I have very like surface level minimum knowledge. Just it's not something I have dove deep into yet. But what I do know, which is not a lot, um, sun sign is Cancer. I think I'm a Capricorn moon,
Okay.
but I really don't know much other than that. Just being honest.
No, I think that's totally
Yeah.
fair. Um, I've been learning astrology. Just I've been taking a class behind the scenes. You guys might be able to tell if you watch my readings. I feel like I've been infusing a lot of my knowledge that I'm learning. But I'll just share like my big three. So I'm a Gemini sun, Sagittarius moon, and a Virgo rising. I could list the whole chart, but I don't want to be that annoying person. But yeah, that's those are my main three placements, or my big three placements rather.
Nice. I wonder what my rising is. I have it somewhere. Like I have that an app that tells
Mhm.
me, but I don't know. I'm someone that like I like I like to like learn the lessons myself. I like astrology, but I know some people that get so stuck on, well, my chart says this, so this is why I'm that way, or that, or
Yeah,
this is where I'm supposed to go because my chart says this, and they don't really take the time to go along the journey because they're so stuck on what's on the chart. You know what I mean? So I appreciate
absolutely.
it, but I think that's why I've been like resistant to diving too deep because I'm like, well, I'm also always changing. So, but I
Totally.
love astrology.
No, I feel like that's totally valid. And someone just asked my Venus sign. I'm a Gemini Venus. So I know there's some challenges allegedly with that placement. I just think it means that I need a guy who has brain cells, who can actually have a nice conversation with me, an intellectual conversation. And my Mercury is in Gemini as well, because Crystal asked. But no, I mean, I think that that's totally valid, and I kind of see that as I've been delving more into the astrology community and learning. To me, I think astrology is an amazing and powerful tool for self reflection. But I always feel very cautious about getting super wrapped up in like, what's this transit today, and how is it going to impact me? Like you said, there's a balance that needs to be stricken, right? Between like it's cool to check the chart and see what's going on in your chart and to use it to understand the energies that you're working with. But we also have to have that balance of just like living our lives too.
Yeah, and I feel like that goes with just all things spiritual, including tarot and any other form of divination. Like I always tell people it's to help throughout the journey, not necessarily for the outcome or end all, because
Right.
or energy is always changing, things are fluid, and also tomorrow's not promised. Not to be morbid, but
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely. Okay, well, that's kind of a good segue into our next question because somebody asked us, I'm actually just going to read this. They said, I know a little bit about Mercury retrograde, but would like to hear from you about the effects of retrograde shadow period. I usually listen to readers mentioning it, but would like to know more details.
Okay, sorry, I'm always trying to find the mute button. um, you may be better at this on the astrology side, but from just basic knowledge of Mercury retrograde, but just experience of the past and maybe themes I've seen in terms of energy, what I've felt for the collective and things like that. um, Sorry, I just saw a pop up. I've been seeing the
Yeah,
comments, but yes, baby, I know you have comments. Can I give mine?
Lula has her feedback to
The
give.
uh-huh. The shadow period I have noticed personally for myself and for like the collective is that it almost hits harder than when it's actually like retrograde itself. The pre-shadow meaning just before Mercury goes retrograde, and the post-shadow, which is just after. It's like, you know how when you can feel a storm coming, it's not there yet, but you feel it even more than it's like when it's in front of you. It's kind of like that. Not to say it's all bad, but you feel the effects of it. Like maybe there's technology glitching, maybe the truth about how people are is coming to light. Like you're learning things that were hidden are now being revealed. There's information you didn't know before, and now you know it. Some of it's good, some of it's bad. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Some things may not go as expected, but then you realize after it all that it actually put you on a better path. So it had to kind of get shaken up to get you to see some things, or to maybe even have a hard or difficult conversation with yourself or somebody else, to get more clarity. Like those are kind of themes I've noticed that happen like during the shadow time. But mostly I can also some I've seen it drain people's energy. So it's a good time to just really slow down and pause and not be impulsive during these shadow times and during the retrograde, but during the shadow times, because it seems to hit harder, in my opinion, that I've noticed in terms of experience.
Yeah. No, I think that's really well said. I agree with the analogy used of like the signs of a storm coming. That's kind of how I think of the pre-shadow. It's like we're just starting to kind of get into the energy of the retrograde. So you're getting a preview of what's to come. And then with the post shadow, it's kind of like the recovery time from the retrograde itself. And I agree with what you said about retrograde. I mean, I think Mercury retrograde in particular, it's such something that's so fear mongered about all the time. I see so much fear mongering about Mercury retrograde. All these disasters are going to happen. Really, any retrograde, I feel like there's a lot of that going on. Sometimes in the astrological spiritual community. But as you said, it's really just a time for self reflection. It's a time to just slow down, go inward. Mercury in particular, it's about, communication and reading things thoroughly, making sure you've dotted all the I's and crossed all the T's. It's technology related things. So, it's just a time to make sure that you're reviewing everything really well before you act. Like Erica said, slowing it down. You don't have to make any impulsive decisions. And if you do make an impulsive decision and something goes wrong, or really if anything goes wrong in general during retrograde period, it's just illuminating to you what needs to be revised. You know what I mean? So that you can fix it and make it better for the future. So that's my take on it.
Yes, and also for those that may not know, again, I'm not an expert, but Mercury rules communication and technology. So, and even like travel. So, these are themes why we're touching on certain things rather than others, because that's why Mercury kind of influences those those things, which is also why you might get people coming out the woodwork to kind of maybe touch base and communicate, or things like that may happen as well during that time. But I think you made a good point about the fear mongering energy, because I've also, me personally, the tower card used to be my least favorite, and I still get frustrated during Mercury retrograde for sure, but
Sure.
I've come to appreciate both, like, because I also kind of see the tower card similar to like Mercury retrograde vibes. Not, but I appreciate it because it's not scary to me anymore. It helps me know how to navigate things, and it's kind of like, okay, well, if you have a heads up, then you're not as upset when you're like, oh well, I kind of suspected this was coming, so you
Yeah.
don't get as upset. And like, kind of like the tower card, when things don't work out how you wanted or how you thought it should, or maybe if things happen unexpectedly, it's all for a reason, because maybe that was not the best route for you. So I've kind of learned to appreciate those, when it comes to like Mercury retrograde and the tower. Like, I'm not scared of them anymore.
No. And you also have to think about too, many of us are born with a Mercury retrograde placement. Or like for me, I have Saturn retrograde in my chart. I think Uranus is retrograde in my chart. I have a couple of planets retrograde in my birth chart. So if there's all this like negative, like, does that just mean that I'm a messed up person because of all these retrograde planets that have in my chart? No, it just means that the energy works a little bit differently for me, right? It has to come from within me because it's retrograde versus external sources. So, yeah. Natty asked, what's the correlation between exes coming back and Mercury retrograde?
Speaking of Mercury retrograde, before I get into that, am I frozen? Because you're frozen on my side.
No.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe it's just mine right now. Uh, but X is coming back during Mercury retrograde. It's usually, oh, now you're moving.
Okay.
um what I've noticed, like I said, I'm not an astrologer, but what I've noticed in terms of themes of energy that I've seen and like patterns is because usually during Mercury retrograde, unfinished communication, or maybe someone has had time to sit and think about a past disagreement, or maybe they've had time to think about their actions, and now they're like, well, let me just kind of touch base and communicate. Maybe I can clear the air, or maybe I can make sure they don't hate me, or maybe it's just ego based and they just want to see, do they still have some sort of impact on you. Like, it could be any of those things, but it's usually tied to somehow like seeing if there's a door of communication open or to clear something up most of the time.
Completely agree with that. Absolutely.
Also, I can feel somebody wondering why I named this Billy. If you watch the original Scream, there are two killers, but one of them, his name was Billy. So this is why this is Billy. For whoever was wondering, I could feel it.
Okay, so I think somebody else asked us a quick question. Anja, I think is how you pronounce it. She asked if we're answering any intuitive questions. So today we're not doing any readings today. But if you have like a general situation that you would like our take on, just some general guidance, advice, no cards, you can totally like ask us the question, and maybe it'll, bring on some additional conversation or talking points that we can go over.
Yes, it's kind of like ask Melissa, ask Erica. That's
Yeah,
me.
exactly. Okay, so next question, I'm actually really excited to dig into this for you or with you. I'm going to read it out loud, but this has to do with pick a card readings.
Oh,
So this person asked, so for instance, they said some tarot readers uploaded a few videos at once on the same day. I watched all of them for the one person on my mind, but it doesn't tally at all. For example, in the first video, it says he loves me, but then the next video, it says that he doesn't, just as an example, she says. But in my mind, before choosing the pile, I'm only thinking of that one person. So how do I interpret that? If its energy changes, it's unlikely because they posted on the same day, kind of confused. So basically, what they're asking is they went to the same reader's channel. That reader posted two videos in the same day, two pick a card readings. I'm assuming they're love readings because this person's asking about their special person they want to know about. But they were basically saying that they got different answers between the two pick a card readings, and it didn't make sense to them because the reader posted them both on the same day. So
okay.
lots to unpack there.
Yeah. Well, I kind of take it as your guides, your own guides, getting spicy with you. By doing that, by saying it, well, what do you actually believe? You know what I mean? Because they're like, you already asked this question. Why are you asking again? Not that I know people do that, but especially if it's the same day, it's like you literally just asked this question like the same day. Like, so
Right.
that's one way I see it. Because sometimes it's like you already asked, just kind of pause and then use it to reflect on, okay, this is what this reading said, but what do you actually feel? How do you feel loved? Just reflect on where you stand in that information. Did it resonate? Because if you were left still questioning and you had to ask again, I think you kind of already know the answer. You know what I mean? So spirit can get spicy with us like that, can get sassy like that. And it's also a kind of a way for you to develop your yeah, she said yeah.
Lula agrees.
It's also a way for you to tap into your own intuition and learn how to trust what you actually are intuitively feeling rather than always looking outside of yourself. So that's kind of how I feel because it's like psychic reading addiction. You know, I'm not diagnosing anybody with that, but I'm saying like if you're asking literally the same question with pick a cards and the same reader, or whether it's multiple readers, the same day, or you're asking the same question, pulling cards over and over and over until you try to see cards that you want to see. Like, spirit is like, I already gave you an answer. You know, what does your
Right.
intuition tell you now? So that's how I see it.
Yeah, I think that's such powerful advice because ultimately, to me, when you're going to like a general pick a card reading on YouTube, personally, the way that I would recommend using it, and again, I can't tell anyone what to do. You guys watch them as you see fit. But I really feel you should be going for confirmation versus information, because deep down, intuitively, you already know, right? It might not be something you can articulate fully. It might not be something that you fully understand yet, but going to that pick a card reading or booking a personal reading can help to confirm what your intuition is already trying to tell you, right? So to me, when I hear about people going and watching the same, multiple videos from the same reader in a day on like a similar question, it tells me, like Erica's saying, that you're not sitting back and trusting in your own gut instincts and what your intuition is really trying to say to you. The other thing that I always will say too with this is that you want to keep in mind that general readings on YouTube are general readings, right? So even though there is an element of you selecting a pile and you are picking the reading, it's still a general collective reading, because as a tarot reader, what we're doing is we're just tapping into the collective, but it's separated into three different kind of stories, right? Or three different major energies that the collective are dealing with that are drawn to that particular reading. So when you go and even pick your pile, it could be that maybe you were drawn to that pile for one message that was in there and the rest of it's not for you. It could even be that you go to a pick a card reading and there's no message for you in that reading. But it's really ultimately up for you to decide through trusting and connecting with your intuition to know, okay, that confirms what I'm already feeling or not.
Yes. Hold on. Am I? Yeah, okay. Yeah. So like you said, it's general, and we're tapping into many people. So it's like you might get the one that's closest to what a personal reading would be for you. And like you said, maybe there's only one message you're supposed to get out of it versus the
Yeah.
overall. Because if it's kind of like majority vote for that pile, you know what I mean? It's not gonna resonate with like everybody. Also, I actually did a YouTube short the other day on this. Um, I don't think asking anybody else other than that person directly if they love you is gonna benefit you, because love is subjective.
Yes.
So your version of love, as in the queer ones, the reader's version of love, the other person's version of love could all be different things, because people have different definitions of love and what it looks like, what it feels like. That's why we have different love languages. So it's subjective. So it kind of comes down to, do you feel loved? Because if not, if you're questioning, then maybe this might not
Yeah.
be it. But yeah, I think that's one of those things that take those kinds of readings, whether it's a general pick a card of the day, or even a personal reading, kind of like with a grain of salt, because people can only tell you, yeah, they love you or don't love you based upon their own version of what
Right.
love is.
Yeah. I think that's so well said. The other thing I would say too, that I just think it's important to touch on as well, is that just because a reader is posting a lot of readings, it doesn't mean that you have to watch all of them, right? Like, so for instance, like for me, you guys probably know if you watch my content or follow my content, I post usually about 2 videos a week, but I'm not posting it because it's like, oh, everybody needs all of this guidance, right? I don't know if everyone really needs to watch 8 YouTube pick a card readings a month, right? I just post different types of content as part of my strategy to help grow my channel too, right? So that you also have to keep in mind that if a reader, I don't want to speak for every reader, but I'm sure that readers that are posting a lot of content, they're doing it, one, because we love it and it's fun for us. Like for me, it's a really fun thing to do. It's a great creative outlet to do pick a card readings. But then there's also like a channel growth strategy around that as well. So just because the content is there, it doesn't mean that you should feel obligated to watch all of it for advice, right?
Right. I agree with that. And I heard you the whole time. It's just she was pulling her rubber bands out her hair. Oh my goodness. Lula Brain, hold on. Oh, this is why. Hold on, baby. This is why I don't make content as much anymore. But she was pulling the rubber bands out her hair. I didn't want her to eat them, so I had to grab her, and she was upset. So now we have a special guest.
Everyone, welcome Lula, our special guest.
This is Lula. She's got a lot to say. So definitely about how you said, even if there's lots of readings being uploaded in the day, you don't really need to watch them all. because it is good to take breaks, and honestly live life, because sometimes you have to live into the answers. I think obviously I do this for a living, and it's part of my passion and one of my purposes to do readings. So I clearly I believe in it, but I also feel like um you shouldn't be, for lack of better words, like obsessing and relying on it too much, because you still have to look at the real look at things realistically in terms of the facts of what's happening,
Yes.
not just in terms of what you hope for or even all of what you feel, because sometimes your view of things could be shifted because you feel a certain way. And especially if you're asking about another person with these picket cards and whatnot, um it could get fuzzy for you if you're looking at too many, because you're meant to take breaks and digest the information and trust your intuition and live into some of the answers. So yeah.
I love what you said about living into the answers, and I completely agree. Sometimes you have to just take a step back and just like, let's look at the facts of what's happening here. Like, I want to know the answer to this question. How does this person feel about me? Well, how do they act toward me like 95 to 100% of the time? Do they consistently communicate with me? Do they ask me out on dates? Is there like a regular slow, steady increase in effort, energy, and exchange between myself and this person? Like, you can really look at just, take the emotion out of it and just look objectively. And I think it can help to illuminate some of the answers for you.
I definitely agree with all of that for sure.
All right. So, the last question that we had on the initial list is here. And then I see that there were a couple more that people were chatting in. So, somebody asked, how do you connect with spirit and how do you know that it's a positive energy and not a malicious one?
um I think that's self-awareness tells you that.
Yeah.
Like I I did a clairsentient video, which is clairsentience is basically your own um psychic ability or intuition of feeling. So it's like, how does it make you feel? For me, everybody's going to be different though. I can only speak on like how I feel. Like for me, I've noticed when something is not necessarily the most positive, I
Mhm.
might I might get goosebumps, but in the eerie, creepy kind of way. Whereas when, like, let's say a spirit comes to visit me and it's maybe a loved one, I might get goosebumps, but it feels more like excitement, or it feels peaceful or comforting. Like, you have to have self-awareness to know, because everybody's going to be different, and so it kind of comes down to, how does it make you feel, what's happening. I mean, if you want to get super paranormal, like, are there smells, are there anything like, does it smell sweet, does it smell like rotting meat, like all these other things that, like, can tell you or be clues to what may be happening or who's around, things like that.
Yeah, I agree. I think discernment is really important and listening to what your body is telling you, how you're feeling. I think for me, something that really helps as well is to just make sure that before I go into performing a reading, whether it's for myself, a client, a pick a card, I need to make sure that I'm in a really good space personally, right? So maybe doing a little bit of meditation beforehand, making sure that I don't have anything stressful that's on my mind, like anxiety, any negativity, or like just stuff that I'm dealing with that could be impacting the ability to connect to the reading, right? So I think preparation in that way is really helpful too. I also kind of have this experience where I will see gold orbs. I know that some of you guys have actually commented that on my videos because you can see them on the videos. So that is something that I've learned to trust as like a positive message, that this is a message that's like needing to get out there. So I take that as like kind of a visual sign too of like a positive presence.
I love that. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna give her a snap pouch because she's getting
Okay.
fussy, and I'll be right back.
Okay. Okay, so while I'm waiting for Erica, I'm just gonna kind of look through the chat to see if I've missed anything. Christy, I think you're so underrated. I connect with you so much because I'm a Gemini stellium, Sun, Mars, Mercury. Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, I have a lot of Gemini placements. I think I was just sharing this in a video that I uploaded recently, but I have my Sun in Gemini, Mercury, Venus, and then I also have Chiron in Gemini, all in the 10th house. Um, so lots of mutable energy. Actually, a lot of mutable energy in my chart besides just Gemini. Let's see. Natty asked, how can you confirm if someone is your twin flame? I definitely want to talk about that with Erica when she gets back. Are you back? Okay.
I'm back. She was getting fussy. She wanted a snack.
Okay. Is she feeling better?
Yeah.
We had a couple of other questions come through. So somebody asked us, Natty asked, how can you confirm if someone is your twin flame? I know this is one of your favorite topics. So
Oh, okay. So just know whenever I'm speaking on things like this, I am coming from a place of love, but people tend to get triggered when I speak sometimes, whether it's because sometimes I'm giving tough love or it whatever reason. But I think that one, I don't think you actually want somebody to be your twin flame because I don't think most people realize what that is. If you do believe in that kind of thing. But I think that a lot of the time when I hear somebody is saying, are they my twin flame or calling someone a twin flame, most of the time that is code, in my opinion, for struggle love.
hmm,
And I feel like because twin flames don't have to be romantic either. It could be a
right.
friend or a family member, So basically, they're a catalyst, in my opinion, for extreme growth.
Correct.
Or to make a major shift in a new perspective. And it doesn't mean you end up together. Maybe the friendship ends, maybe the romance ends, maybe you stop talking to that family member, maybe they stay in your life. But at the end of the day, all relationships in some way, shape, or form are a mirror to teach you something about you. And so in that case, like if I look in the mirror, it looks like me, that's a twin, right?
Yeah.
So I just kind of have a very different take on this whole concept because I was someone who fully believed in twin flame and I thought this guy was my twin flame and I was reading books on it, I was getting readings on it, and all it came down to was this person really helped me grow spiritually, but we are not supposed to be together because this is clearly a struggle and we're not a fit. um but at the end of the day, like I was saying, relationships are meant to mirror something back to you about yourself or what works for you, what doesn't. Maybe it's showing you growth and you're doing well. Maybe it's showing you what needs to be left behind. Sometimes it's a rear view mirror. Leave it behind you. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
so that's kind of my take. Because I've noticed over time, and this is kind of a weird example, but it's the best way I could put it is I have a few decks. They're uh, Goddess Guidance deck and a few others that have like a twin flame card in it. When I tell you throughout time, as I've pulled cards, I've pulled the twin flame cards for multiple people. And that's when
Mhm.
my shifts and how I viewed it began to change. Because it's like, how can this person be my twin flame, but also this other person? It's because they are mirroring or looking like something similar to you, or maybe not even similar to you, because if they're a horrible person, it doesn't mean you're horrible. It could be that
Right.
they're again showing you something about yourself, like a reflection in the mirror, like I said. And if you really think about it, if we all come from the same source of the universe, then we're all kind of in a way like connected. It's just some are more connected than others. Does that make sense? But I
Yes.
I just don't think that people know or really understand what a twin flame is. But at the end of the day, they're a catalyst for your growth, basically.
Lula agrees clearly. But I agree with everything you said about twin flames. And I love that you talked about how you kind of had this epiphany through using the decks, right? Because a lot of the love oracle decks that are out there specifically will have like a twin flame card in there. And I've seen it personally with my own readings, similarly to what Erika shared. But then I've also seen it with my clients who come to me for personal services. A lot of times when that twin flame card comes up, it is a struggle love situation. It's a situation where, they are connecting with this person to learn something about their spiritual growth and evolution, but it doesn't mean, that they're going to end up together necessarily. I also think too that sometimes we put a little bit too much weight onto these spiritual labels. And I think the reason why a lot of people are so like interested in the twin flame is because it sounds so romantic, right? Like it sounds so like, oh my gosh, the other half of my soul. And it sounds like something that could be really like enticing, right? The way that it's presented to us. So I get why people really like kind of identify with that term and kind of embrace that term because it's the romance of it. But I think like all the labels, whether it's soulmate, karmic, twin flame, I think that sometimes focusing too much on what the label is, it kind of deters you or prevents you from just living into the experience with the person, right? Because if you're so caught up on, oh, they're my twin flame, you might be projecting all this positive stuff onto a person that's really not that positive of an influence in your life. Or, same thing with like the karmic always gets a bad reputation too. But in my experience, some karmic partners have really helped me learn about myself, right? So they all kind of have serve their purpose. And I just think the label is probably what gets people the most like wrapped up into things that aren't always serving them. So
I agree with you 50,000 million times with with putting so much weight on these titles, spiritual soulmate type titles in any form, because like you said, people assume karmic is bad. Not always. It just means patterns repeating or cycles repeating, for example, to teach you a lesson. And like, twin flame, deep spiritual growth, like it. But then it's romanticized. A lot of people I've noticed romanticize like the struggle, or get romanticize the rejection or the separation, Romeo Juliet vibes because of these titles. And I think at the end of the day, they're all soul connections. We have many soul connections for many different reasons. And what you want to call it doesn't really matter. Who cares?
yeah,
Because what is it teaching you? How does it make you feel? Are you happy? Are you not? Like, what is it showing you? That's all that matters. And is it also tangible? Because you also don't want to be stuck in, I feel this, or I believe this, or all of these fantasies, but nothing is being built in reality. You're not spending time in
yes,
reality. There's no conversation in reality. There's no future plans,
yeah,
mutually wanting things at the same time in reality. So all of these things, they're good. They're good to extent, but also who cares? Because at the end of the day, how do you feel in this? You know what I mean? That's all that matters. And what are you learning? Is it growing? Is it not? All of that.
yeah, yeah. So well said. Completely agree. We have some comments coming through. Um, Someone asked us, is reading your main job? For me, unfortunately, no. I do have a muggle job that I work 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. And my magical job of reading tarot is extra. Working on making it more full time, but I do require, additional support from all of you lovely people that enjoy my content for that. And then Erika, I know, is full time.
Whoa, now Lula. Yes, I do readings full time. But I also think that because some people like put pressure on themselves to feel like they should be entrepreneurs these days, like that's the thing. And I think that if that resonates with you, that's beautiful. But also, it's still also beautiful to have a muggle job sometimes, because I can tell you as an entrepreneur, sometimes having things like vacation time, pay time off is great, things like
Yeah.
that. Because when you're an entrepreneur, if you're not working, you don't get money.
Yeah, and you have to
So
pay for your healthcare and you have
yeah,
to, factor in, like you said, your PTO and your days off. There's pros and cons to everything in
right.
life. Someone asked how to find your channel, and I saw Frankly Darling did comment, Psychic Goddess Erika on YouTube, but that's how you can find Erika. And I think Erika is frozen now on my end, so I don't know what's going on. Oh, is she back? Mercury retrograde, you guys.
Oh, I don't know if you can see me now or not.
Yes.
What was the question? I had to move her away from the carpet. She was about to pour some snack on the carpet.
Oh, you're fine. No, someone had just asked how to find your channel, but somebody else commented into the chat where they can find you.
Oh yeah. My channel, Psychic Goddess Erika. Erika spelled with a K, Erika. My website also is www.psychicgoddesserika.com. My Instagram is at Psychic Goddess Erika. I have a personal one as well, but that's linked in the profile to my business Instagram.
And she is amazing, you guys. I've been getting readings from her for years.
Thank you.
Someone said, one of my twins or soulmates is my sister. I wanted to strangle her. Relationship all as well. Also added in, I would never overestimate a twin or underestimate a karmic. Every person is a mirror. Do not romanticize. Do not marginalize everything. So well said.
Yep. Yes, I love that.
Let me just see. I feel like somebody else, Crystal Tide Tarot, who I also love. She asked, what's the spookiest thing to happen to you both while reading tarot?
Nothing spooky as in like scary spooky, or like spooky as in wow, that's so accurate spooky. That's what I wonder. But
Maybe either.
nothing scary has happened to me while reading tarot, because I always put intention over any kind of divination I do.
Yeah.
And like, even for example, this is kind of off topic, but like, even for example, people use Ouija board, and some people like, I'm not touching it at all. But that doesn't have to be scary either. You give it intention, or some people use the word prayer over it before you go into it. You just don't go into it and just start doing things. You know what I mean? So I haven't had anything scary happen while reading. Scary in terms of spooky scary while doing
me
reading.
neither. For me, the closest thing to like I don't even know if I want to call it paranormal, but like I was saying before, I get little gold orbs that fly in front of my camera. That's pretty much it. But it's not scary.
Yeah.
Let's see. We have some comments coming in. I'm so much better reading for others, but when I read for myself, I struggle so much with self-doubt and trusting my readings. Sometimes I'm worried my own delusions get in the way. That Christy shared that with us.
I feel like I used to be in that place too a while back, but the only time and just lessons will help you to discern better as you go on. Like what I used to do, for example, would be like, and I have a bunch of journals over here, I would pull cards for myself and write down the exact cards I pulled. And then sometimes I would try to intuitively feel what I believed it was in the beginning, but after you let it play out, they may take on different meanings. And then you see, oh, that's what that was. And so I think just like over time is the only way that's going to show you, all right, matching this with what I was feeling or sensing or hearing, I now understand what I was being shown. And so you'll just get better over time, honestly. Just that's the only way I can put it is patience, time, trial and error, and don't try to force the messages either. And I would say wait to do a reading for yourself when you feel neutral, not when you're anxious or sad or mad or scared, or even when you're overly happy and elated. Like I would wait until you feel more neutral, where it's kind of like, honestly, I care, but if it goes this way or that way, I'm at acceptance. And that's when you get the most accurate readings.
Completely agree with going into it with the intention of acceptance. And I also think something else that can help too is if you're really good, if you feel confident about reading for others, when you pull your own cards, read the card as if you were reading for someone else. Like ask yourself, how would I really interpret this if this was my client? You know what I mean? Am I only putting positivity, like a positive spin on this because it's me and I want it to be a certain way? Or if this were a client reading, would I be delivering the message a little bit differently? You know what I mean? Because I'm sure with the client, it's your emotions are not in it, meaning that you're just going to kind of be more matter of fact with what you see. You know what I mean? So that's what I would say too.
Yep, I would definitely agree with that. A trick I used to do, and I guess it's arguably, so you could argue it, but basically, when I used to read for Renee, Renee is my middle name,
Oh, yes, I love
but it
that.
was really for me, but I was reading for Renee. Does that
That's
make
so
sense?
smart.
And it used to help me before I really grew confident in just trusting my own abilities. And I'll be honest, I used to have my own version of psychic reading addiction, or I used to obsessively pull cards. I had apps on my phone. I had so many decks. Like, I'm talking about over a decade ago at this point, but like I used to also be a client when I was first learning how to read. I was also getting a lot of reading from other people or watching videos, watching content, all of these things. And mind you, this was before it became trendy to do all these things. But so I understand where people are coming from when they say like, oh, their delusion or what they want might feel cloudy. So um again, the trick for of reading Renee, but also limiting how many you're doing in a day, or even if you're getting readings from other people, limiting how many you're getting from other people, because
Yeah.
you should not. I mean, I don't like to tell people should or shouldn't. I don't feel that it's necessary to do several readings for yourself or several readings, get several readings from other people on the same topic in the same day or sometimes even the same week. You know what I mean? Because if you feel like you have to do that, then you already know something. Like you
Yeah.
already know something's off. So maybe you need some space to reflect on what's best for you instead, and use the reading, whether you're pulling for yourself or getting it from other people, as navigation. But again, not even necessarily for answers. Does that make sense? Like navigation. If
Yeah.
that.
I think what you were saying earlier too about journaling and writing down when you pull cards for yourself, or even you can do this when you're getting a reading from someone else. But like if you're getting that impulse to like, oh, I need to pull cards on this again, even though I pulled cards earlier today on the same topic, instead of like allowing that impulse to take over and continuing to pull cards or book another reading, just go back to what you wrote down earlier and say, okay, I already answered this question for myself earlier. Here are the cards that I got. What is it trying to tell me? Or, same thing if you're going back and viewing a reading that somebody did for you, go back to the reading and watch it instead of feeling, oh, I have to book another one because I just don't know. You already have the answer. You were given the answer.
I love that you said that, because it's so often that it's like I'll do a reading for someone and they will ask me the same question right after, just in a different way. I'm like, if you pause, listen to what I said or read what I said, and actually allow yourself to digest it, you'll see that that was answered. It may not always be in the words that you feel like you want
Yes.
the words to be or how you think it should be, but it was answered, you know? So sometimes going back and rereading it or re-listening or maybe even waiting so it plays out and then going back and listening, you'll notice that like, okay, now I see where that was fitting. But I also think that sometimes people get caught in their own narrative so much that they read it or hear it or just take it so differently than what was actually said. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
They put their own spin on it sometimes. But yeah, that's why I think getting into more of a neutral, balanced space as much as possible is really important, because you don't want to be reading or listening to readings with wounded ears. Like, not to say that you have to be fully healed, but you don't want to be in a state of extreme emotion, because you're not going to digest anything that way. And you also don't want to be overly in cloud nine to where if anything negative comes out, then you're like, that's not true because I feel amazing right now. Like, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
you kind of want to be more neutral, because I always also like to remind people that a reading is a highlight of a situation. So obviously, it's not going to cover everything. So if you're getting a majority negative reading, for example, it doesn't mean everything about the situation is completely negative. These are just highlights, and maybe spirit is highlighting that just so you can make a balanced decision, because you know what's good on the other side. You know all the details behind the scenes in terms of what's actually going on that you're not saying. So take that information, good or bad, as highlights and use it to then navigate from there. But a reading, there's no reading that's going to tell you everything.
Everything.
Mhm.
So well said. Someone wrote, they're a binge watcher, unfortunately. Sad face. It's okay. You know, we've all been there. Trust me. You're not alone.
The first step is admitting.
Yes. And then Crystal Tide Tarot said one time, she's the one that asked us if we've ever had anything spooky happen during a reading. She said, one time I had a client's aunt come into the reading with the cards, and I asked if she had an aunt that passed away, and she did. I had never had an experience like that, nor was I trying to. That's kind of cool. I've never had that before. Not yet, anyway.
So I take that as spooky cool, not spooky scary.
Yeah.
But also I guess it just believes on what you're ready for, because
Yeah.
I do have mediumship abilities, but I don't promote it as like, I don't be like, hey, book me for a medium reading, because I don't have control over it yet. Maybe one day I'll know how to navigate better that, but I do have things that pop in unexpectedly. So I can understand that feeling of like, all right, I wasn't expecting that to happen, so it is kind of spooky, but it's not like
Yeah.
scary.
You had something with me recently with something that I
Oh
went
yes,
through. Yeah.
yeah, that was a moment for sure.
Yeah. Definitely. I feel like we probably have gotten through most of the questions. I was kind of keeping an eye on the chat. Is there anything else that Lula or yourself would like to talk about before we end, or
Lula,
any
what
other
you want to
questions you
say?
guys have?
Um, you got anything to say, baby? Now's your chance. She she said, just live your life.
So cute.
And she's being sassy because whatever it is, her head's going like this.
Oh my God. Lula is so cute. Do you remember when she was like littler than she is now? You would like you would post pictures of her, send me pictures of her just like giving side eye in her little stroller to whoever was nearby.
She's always been, she's got an attitude for sure. But I love it. She's definitely outspoken for
I love
sure.
that.
Some attitude. That's that Gemini.
Exactly.
And she's an extrovert and I'm an introvert, so she's my balance.
She's so extroverted. Oh my gosh.
Right, girl. I think anything else I want to say. Um, I just feel like just I always like to remind people, like mostly because I do work with a lot of divination tools, even though I don't need them. I enjoy them because it helps to kind of channel the energy faster. And so I just want to give like I guess a disclaimer, or like maybe explain it a little better, because some people still don't understand how tarot works and things like tarot and oracle work. And I always like to remind people that these are just it's paper and an image or words. They don't hold power. It's you.
Right.
So I always like to remind people that want to be mindful of how you're going into a reading, working with these divination tools, but also it's you that's powerful, not these cards. Because even if you're just shuffling cards and pull something, that is a form of channeling. Whatever card you get cannot be wrong. You may not necessarily know how to interpret it in that moment, but you are channeling information because it's you that is a vessel at that point. It's your intuition works through your nervous system, to my understanding. So that's why when you're pulling cards, you pull what is needed to be seen.
Yes.
It's just after that is on you and your discernment to interpret what that's telling you. So I like to remind people when they're afraid to touch cards, or they like, or crystal ball or a pendulum or Ouija board or
Yeah.
whatever it is. That's just an object. That's not the powerful thing in this. It's you and its spirit that's powerful.
Correct.
Hopefully that makes sense. I just wanted to leave that reminder.
No, I think that's a great reminder. And I think too, people like you'll get to the point where you won't even need cards to read a situation, because you're so trusting in your intuition. You've learned from your experiences. You know, like now there are times that I might interact with where, in the past I might not have understood that energy and I would have needed cards. And now it's like, oh, I know what that energy is. I know exactly what's going on. I can read this person. I don't need any cards for that.
And it's funny you say that because I find myself a lot of the time, at least for myself, I don't really pull cards much anymore.
Yeah.
Like I used to pull a card of the day, cards for the week, and cards for the month and all journal it down. But now I'm so, I guess, in tune with my own just natural abilities that I might pull a forecast for the month and then I just leave it and I
Yeah.
let it sit all month. And then I go back and I look, I'm like, oh, that was right. Oh, that was right. It's, I don't really need it anymore. And I also find myself wanting to do more just channeled messages either for YouTube or for other people in readings. But the thing is, some people are so used to seeing me work with tools that they feel like if I'm not using a tool in front of them, they think I'm just making it up. Yeah, making it up, which is not the case. But some people need to see that visual, so that's why I use them a lot.
Right.
But they're not needed. Like I said, if anything, it helps to consolidate and channel the energy faster because I could sit, but it might be 20 minutes before I get my first message if I'm not using tools. But
Yeah.
if I use tools, it's kind of, it just channels it better and then it just makes speeds it up, especially when you're in a timed reading or timed session, things like that.
Definitely. Well, I feel like there were a few other questions that came through, but I'm personally starting to get a little hungry. You guys, I've been up since 4:50 in the morning because I get up really early. I go to the gym at 6 a.m. and then I work my muggle job from 8 to 5. So I'm getting a little tired.
Yeah, maybe we can do a part 2 later on.
Yeah, yes. I definitely think we should do a part 2 because I saw a couple other questions that came through about like spirit guides and how do we know who our spirit guides are. I think there's some really great topics that we can dive into. So I apologize to those of you who asked those questions. I don't have any, I'm getting hungry. I don't have the bandwidth to go over them right now.
Yeah, it's all good. Lula's getting crankies over there too. But this was super fun. I would love to do
Yes.
a part 2. Um, you guys obviously see why sometimes I can't produce as much content as I used to because Miss Lula thing is always wanting to be a part of it or she wants her own show.
But I
But it's
love when you post your pick a card readings and she just like expresses something just at the right time, and it's like that was confirmation of that message.
yeah, she's super psychic herself. With a Pisces dad, a Cancer mom, how could she
Oh
not be?
yeah, 100%. We need to know Lula's birth chart, or maybe I need to know the next time we chat about it.
Oh my
um,
goodness.
all right, you guys. Well, I think we'll probably end here. This is my first time going live, so I'm assuming once I end the live, this will be uploaded to my channel. We're just gonna play by ear and see. My goal is to have it uploaded to the channel so that way, if any of you guys missed it, you can tune in and watch. I will do my best to go in and maybe like add timestamps so that you guys can kind of see where we talked about certain topics if you want to skip around. That's how my Virgo rising brain works. But thank you all so much for joining. This was so much fun. This is my first YouTube live, so I appreciate everybody who joined in. As always, you can follow Erika at her YouTube channel, Psychic Goddess Erika. I will link all that stuff in the description box too if you guys missed the live and you're just curious to find where she is. But thank y'all. Thanks, Erika. This was fun.
Thank you. We'll talk to all of you again later.